Welcome to Education Today, the Guest Teacher Edition. I'm your host, Solanke. After 15 years as a secondary English teacher, I stepped away from the classroom and took a 1-year hiatus. Now I'm back in a completely new capacity. I'm a substitute teacher, and I get to experience teaching all grade levels and subjects from kindergarten to 12th grade in a brand new school district. Join me as I document my journey seeing education through a brand new lens with a different angle. Welcome back to Guest Teacher, the Substitute Teacher Chronicles. I'm your host, Solanke. Another week gone. This was I don't even know which week this was. I've lost count at this point. But I know that was another week of teaching under my belt. That I do know. And it was a good week. A lot of things happened this week. And as Chinua Achebe says, and things fall apart. As of right now, I still don't have the mouth with which to speak of these things. But I'm going to try my best. So what do I start with? The good, the bad, or the ugly? Let's start in a middle school where I was substitute teaching social studies, one of my faves, one of my favorites. And the teacher left an assignment that to me was very accessible for 8th graders, map skills. They are learning ancient history in the Middle East. A map skills activity, to me, a fun activity, identifying rivers, seas, bodies of water, continents, countries, important places in Egypt, Mesopotamia, ancient Turkey, what is currently Israel, the Middle East. Learned helplessness. Something that drove me crazy as a teacher, and I have taught middle school and high school. Learned helplessness. I remember that evening coming home and saying to my husband, I don't understand what happened today because that assignment was very accessible. When I was a kid, this is what I'm saying, the conversation I had with my spouse. When I was a kid, I'd loved assignments like that, even as an adult still. I love to be able to figure things out, you know? And when I say figure things out, these kids had access to a textbook with which to figure things out in terms of labeling all of these important places in the ancient Middle East. They had a textbook with maps in them, but that required work. And this was not just about, well, the teacher's here, we have a substitute, we don't want to work. That's different. This is about learned helplessness. Like, I don't even feel like, I don't even, I can't even be bothered to read the directions. I want you to do it for me. That's something I've seen in my classroom. Asking for help. And then when I said, did you read the directions? No. Well, why don't you read the directions? Why don't you want to figure it out? They don't want to struggle. It's like so many students don't want to struggle. They don't want to tussle with the work. I loved struggle. I didn't like it when teachers would give me the answers right away. I wanted to try and figure it out myself first. Then if I couldn't get it and I was frustrated, then help me. But let me tussle with it myself first, especially something interactive like that, geography, social studies. And I know not everybody loves geography and social studies. And some people will be turned off by an assignment like that. But honestly, the problems I saw in that class that day, it was not about, I don't like social studies. It was about, I don't want to struggle. I want to be able to Google the answers and get it quickly. I want to be able to use ChatGPT and get the answers quickly. I want to take a picture of my next door neighbor's work and copy it. I want you as the teacher to tell me what to do. I don't want to try to figure it out myself. Learned helplessness. I don't want to try to figure it out myself. That is something I saw increasingly in my classroom as the years went on. It's like it got worse. COVID made it so much worse, especially when we came back from online. We're in the classroom. Suddenly you don't have access to a phone and a computer to do everything for you. I don't want to think. I don't want to figure it out. I just want you to help me, tell me what to do, and tell me and show me the easiest way to get to a complete or to an A. It's so frustrating. Learned helplessness. I hate that. I do not buy into it. I will ask you questions because when I say, well, what do you need help with? And they say everything. No, I'm not going to help you with everything. Show me specifically what on there you need help with and I can work with you on it. That's when you figure out that they haven't even read the directions, that they just don't want to do anything, you know? No, narrow it down. Which of these parts of this do you have a problem with? Tell me and I will help you. Learned helplessness. Yeah. Teachers, don't buy into it. Don't let them get away with it. Let them struggle. Let them tussle. Um, let them grapple with the work. You know, it's good for them. So I was sitting in a teacher's lounge eating lunch with group of high school teachers this week. I'm just substitute, so I'm just sitting there. Actually, some of them were very friendly. I'd been in some of their classrooms early that day, so I interacted a little and talked, but I know my place is a sub. And there was a point where there were a few people in the room. I was just sitting by myself and I was listening. And there was a man who was saying to his colleague that he'd been researching it and he saw that he has it on good authority that um, anti-Semitic threats are up. So I'm recording this at the time that the Israel-Gaza war is really, really bad. And the death toll in Gaza is going to 10,000. It's a really bad situation, terrible unfolding humanitarian disaster. So that's the context that this is happening. And he's telling a coworker that he has heard that anti-Semitic threats are up, that he read about it, and that's what the government is saying. And they talk about that a little. Then he makes the strangest comment. The strangest comment. He says to her, when his girls were young, he used to tell them that if anybody tries to threaten them or attack them or grab them, that they should yell, Allah Akbar, and then the person will flee. Now, I could tell that because I was in the room, the response of both of those people to that comment was muted. I just could tell that if I hadn't been there, they probably would have laughed about it and added more to it. But their response was kind of muted. And I was like, did he really just say that? First of all, how do you even. Well, let's back it up. If I was sitting there with a hijab, I am 100% certain that that teacher would not have made that comment. For those of you who don't know, Allah Akbar is Arabic for God is great, or God is most great. Um, if I had been sitting there with a hijab on, I'm 100% certain, let me say 99% certain, he would not have made that comment. And the reason he wouldn't have made that comment if I was sitting there and I were wearing hijab is because he knows it's wrong. It's not funny, it's not a joke, and that's wrong. To me, that sounds anti-Islamic, actually. But the thing is, how does he know I'm not Muslim? Not every Muslim wears a hijab. Not every Muslim is Middle Eastern. A lot of us are Africans. I was born in a country that's about 50% Muslim. How do you know I'm not Muslim? I got the feeling he really didn't care. So my thing then is, how do you treat your Muslim students? How do you treat your Middle Eastern students? How do you treat your Palestinian students? Do you treat them differently? Do you hold resentment in your heart for them? If so, how are you able to teach them? It's not the first time I've encountered teachers with similar attitudes. The week prior, I was in another school, and this county is very different from let me just tell you that the county that I taught in for 15 years is like the 7th or 8th largest county in the country, and it's very, very diverse. This county is very different. A lot of agriculture programs and cattle. I see a lot of cowboy boots and cowboy hats. So as I was saying, the week prior, I was in another high school in a lunchroom, not lunchroom, a teacher lounge. There was me. There was another teacher who was he was a black male. And there was a lady who was a white female who started telling us a story about something that happened to her that day. And I actually got up and left. Have a great day. Goodbye, Lee. Because I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to get into a fight with this woman. I don't know her. I don't work here. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to what she's saying. I don't even know if she realizes that what she's saying is inappropriate to me as a black woman and to him as a black male. The boy, the young, I say boy because he's very young. Found out later he was actually a student in the school that I taught. I was a teacher. I wasn't his teacher, but I was a teacher in the school when he went to high school. He came and found me later that day because he realized why I walked out of that room, and he came and we discussed what she was saying and how it was inappropriate. And I don't even know if she even realizes her privilege and her inappropriateness and racism when she was making those comments. just freely in front of us. Oh, I just left. Because like I said, I have no ties to that school. I don't want to fight you and lose lose this little gig I have going. Curse you out. No, let me hold my peace and just move on, keep it going, and share it here on the podcast. And as I said, I have worked with teachers who have similar attitudes that I would call, let's call it what it is. They're racist. But then how are you teaching those kids who are in your class, who are minorities, who are black, who are Asian? How are you teaching Hispanic kids and then making derogatory comments about people crossing the border and illegal immigrants? Like, I don't even understand that. Obviously, not every Hispanic student is somebody who's crossed the border illegally, but they're in these schools. This is Florida. This is Florida. We have these populations. How are you making comments about those students and teaching them? How are you making comments about Middle Eastern people and then teaching Middle Eastern students? How are you making derogatory comments about Black people or inappropriate comments in front of Black people and teaching Black students? How are you stopping your prejudice from spilling over to those students? And I remember years ago in my school, we had this set cultural sensitivity training, basically like teaching you not to be racist at the beginning of the school year. And it's interesting that the teachers who were the most racist, the ones that people knew to make most inappropriate comments, were the ones who were so upset about this training. This is not right. This is wrong. I don't need this. You don't need this. Really? This training was designed for you. You need this. But those were the loudest voices of protest, the teachers who were racist and have racist attitudes towards minorities, but are teaching minority students. I wonder what the experience is like for their students. And the teacher who made the comment about telling his girls to yell Allah Akbar if they're ever confronted by people, I wonder if he I wonder if he even realizes the irony in that statement, coming right after he's talking about the rise in anti-Semitic rhetoric in the country, and he was talking about threats, anti-Semitic threats. I wonder if he realizes the irony of that statement, because he said it like a joke, like not a joke, like he really meant it. That's what he told them, but he seemed to think it was appropriate, and I think he thought it was funny. I worked at a school this week and the previous week, and I've worked there before. That feels very sad. Not the students. The students are fine, although it is sad to hear the students talk about this a school on the neighboring school on the other side of this part of the town as the rich school. Oh, that's the rich school, meaning that they know that they're in the poor school. It's so messed up. This school feels so sad, and I couldn't figure out why. And what I mean is the teachers, the staff members, the administrators, everybody seemed miserable. Everybody seemed miserable. I have never been in a school front office, from working in schools, from going in schools when my children were going to elementary, middle, and high school, um, and now from substitute teaching. Between all those three, I've been in a lot of schools in two different counties. I have never been in a school where the front office staff were miserable. Don't smile. Don't say hello or good morning. Don't greet you and welcome you. Don't give you a nice salutation as you're leaving. Because the front office staff, to be honest, they make the school. And they have never experienced it where they just seem miserable, where they're not welcoming. And then the worst thing is the office itself is dark, just the way the place is built. And for some reason, they don't seem to like a lot of light in there. And the decor colors and the lack of the sparseness of the office and the lack of decorations is so depressing. And I've never seen a front office like that, where it's the office itself is bare, stark, and depressing, and the people who work there don't make any effort to smile, to say good morning. It's miserable. The staff walk around in the school depressed, sorry, not depressed, but looking just defeated. The administrators look defeated. When I was subbing there one day, I was talking in between classes. You stand outside the door, and I was talking in between each class. I was talking to a teacher, neighboring teacher who he's actually a college professor, but he's teaching the high school for now. He just came there, and he was telling me, "Oh, we have a position here, in your field. You should go for it." But this is right after he told me how miserable it was there. It's like, how are you going to tell me how miserable it is here, and then invite me to come work here? You're not really selling it very well. But it turns out that this school it is in a, when the kids say poor school, it's the Title I school. It's pulling from neighborhoods where there's high poverty, it, and all the things that come with that, like low parent involvement um, in the school, and also low parent involvement in keeping up with their kids' grades, etc., coming to conference nights, that type of thing. Um, and then a failing school grade. So I've worked in a school that has a failing school, and to me, I'm not talking F, I'm talking about a D. Schools are assigned a grade here in Florida. I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the country. A, B, C, D, or an F. But the truth is, it's really based on test scores, which means that it's based on the socioeconomic status of the kids in the neighborhoods that are coming to that school. Some kids have more of an advantage than others. If you're in a two-parent household, you're one step up. If you're in a two-parent household where one parent works and the other one, perhaps mom is able to stay home and help you with homework and make sure you get everything you need to be successful in school and participates and volunteers in school activities, you are climbing further up the rung than other kids who don't have that. It's a high poverty school, which means for a lot of kids, the reality is that those two meals that they get there for free, the breakfast and the lunch, are perhaps the only substantial meals that they get. If you're not getting good nutrition, it's hard for you to focus on academics. Um, it's pulling from poor neighborhoods, so therefore it's pulling from neighborhoods that have kids that don't have what they need to be successful in life, whether that's a stable home where you're not being evicted all the time and moving to motel rooms or from sleeping on people's couches, God forbid, even living in a car, which I think is a reality for some students. Um, how do you keep up with homework and schoolwork in those situations? Finances and socioeconomic status, whether we like it or not, make a huge difference in kids doing well at school. But the school district and the government can't necessarily, let me say the school district. The school district can't control that. But so what they do control is what they can control, which is the teachers and the teaching. So, and I said, I've taught in a school like that. So the district will now come if you're a failing school and basically sit on your neck. They're there all the time with clipboards, monitoring everything that you do, micromanaging everything that you do, frustrating the teachers and the administrators, blaming them for the school's failing grade when they know the truth is the kids don't have what the kids in the rich neighborhood have to be successful. They're coming with a deficit. They're behind academically because they're missing so many things that kids need to be successful. But the district can't control that. So what they do is they come around with clipboards all the time and say things like, the kids are failing because your teachers don't have the objectives on the board. What? Really? Every teacher needs to write the same lingo on the board. Swabat. Students will be able to, and then fill it in. These kids are failing because the teachers are not posting the standards on the board. Every day they need to post which standard they're doing. If it's standard SB 12.3, it needs to be posted on the board. If you don't do that and they don't do it uniformly, that's why the kids are failing. So ridiculous. The teacher told me that in that school, all the teachers in each department are required to have the exact same assignments in their grade book. When he told me that, I thought that was a district policy. But I found out when I was at, and I'm doing air quotes here, one of the rich schools, it's not a district policy. It's a policy that's been imposed on that school because of their failing grade. Your kids are failing because teachers have different assignments in the grade book. No, no. So now the teachers all have to be on the same page, which is how it is usually. But then they also have to have the exact same assignments in. So meaning I can't put in a 10-point bell work assignment unless everybody else is doing it. Everybody has to have the same assignments. And you can't really control teaching like that, because teaching is so creative and individual, and everybody has their own different way of doing it and different teaching style. And what that kind of micromanagement does is it frustrates the teachers and the administrators. And no matter what you do, the grade, sometimes it goes up a little bit, but it doesn't go up to an A unless if they change the boundaries of that school, because you got a whole bunch of poor kids, low socioeconomic status, all piled into one school. And then on the other side of town, you got these kids who are living in $500,000 homes, um, all piled into this school when their parents are all professionals. Their parents are all teachers and lawyers and doctors and engineers, dropping them off in Teslas. They're not going to perform the same, and you know that. So, and what happens, and this is what's happening at that school where everybody's miserable, is there is turnover. A lot of the teachers are like, they haven't been there for the long haul. They've been there for 1 or 2 years. I even have a friend who's a former student who actually taught there for a while. Didn't last. I know a former coworker who went there, didn't last. It is quick turnover because it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And then there's also a lot of student behaviors that come with students living in poverty. A lot of behaviors that if the administration doesn't get on top of it, the teachers can get frustrated. So there's high turnover, there's frustration. No wonder everyone is walking around that school looking depressed and looking down. I've been there when I taught in a Renaissance school, actually, which is a little higher up on the rung than a Title One. Title One, I think it was, I don't know what it is now. I think it was like 75% a free or reduced lunch. But Renaissance was 90% free or reduced lunch. But this is a long time ago, though. I don't even think it's called Renaissance School anymore. They changed the names a lot. But it is hard to work in a school like that. And it's a shame that we have a school like that. But I've taught in a school like that, and I understand the frustration. I could feel it in the halls. I understand the frustration of the teachers and the administrators. It's such hard work. And when I worked at the Renaissance School, we actually got a bonus for working there. So in the county that I was in, there was a bonus offered for working in what they call high needs schools. I'm not sure if that's the case in this county, but boy, those teachers do need a bonus because that is a hard assignment. And I really hope that an administrator comes in who brings some joy to that school and some lightness, because it feels very dark, like literally dark in the office. I just hope that an administrator and some office staff and non-teaching staff, because teachers already have their hands full, come in and just bring some light and some joy to that in the atmosphere, because it just feels like a depressing place to work. And if it feels like that for the teachers and the staff, what do you think it feels like for the students who have to go there every day? Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Education Today. We'll be back next time with more current topics on all things education. In the meantime, you can email any questions or comments you have about the show to edtodaypodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you are listening so we can continue to expand our reach. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can check out my blog for more about my experiences as a classroom teacher at medium.com/@SOKOR. That's medium.com/@SOHKOR. You can also find me on Instagram at @SOKOR_rights. That's SOHKOR_rights.